My story is about a friend, but a higher order friend. I've heard all about girlfriends, boyfriends, but my friend was a much higher order. And the story begins with me on Christmas 2007, heading into 2008. And it had been a really hot summer. It was the summer of all the bushfires. And it had been crazy because all the family had come over for Christmas to our house. And I'd done all the cooking and the shopping, and it'd just been crazy, crazy, crazy. You know how Christmas Day can be, hot, sweaty, blah, blah, blah. And I swear to God, the first time I looked in myself in the mirror was Boxing Day. All that Christmas that had been going on, two things being talked about. One was the Pope was coming out to beatify Mary MacKillop. She was going to be Australia's first saint. And the second thing was, every time you turn the TV on, that ad was on. You know the one for skin cancer, and it's all about that sort of gobbledygook thing that crawls into your bloodstream and then multiplies, and this very stern warning comes up and says melanoma is an incurable form of cancer, blah, blah, blah. So that was on all the time through this whole thing. The bushfires are on, Mary MacKillop's about to be beatified, and there's this thing about skin cancer. So the first time I look in the mirror is on Boxing Day. And I rush past and I look, and there on my chest is a freckle that wasn't there before. I couldn't believe it. So I go back and I have another look, and sure enough, it's a freckle. But it's not like all the other freckles I've got. It's slightly raised. It's smaller than a 5-cent piece. It's kind of got this crusty edge on it, and it doesn't look right. I thought, oh my God. So I called out to Ron, because Ron's watching the cricket, and I go, Ron, and he goes, yeah, in a minute. And I go, no, Ron, you need to look at this. And he looks over quickly and then looks back. And he goes, look at the size of that bastard. Well, it turns out he was talking about one of the cricket players, but I thought he was talking about this thing on my chest. So, of course, I freaked out even more. And it couldn't have come at a worse time, because the next day, the day after Boxing Day, we're due to drive up to Brisbane, because at that stage I've got two sons, one of whom has just moved up to Brisbane, and we're taking his pot plants up there. That's what mothers do, they take pot plants up to their sons. Anyway, so we were due to leave the next day, and there's always a lot of tension before Ron and I go on a holiday, because we fight the entire trip. We fight. We just absolutely argue about everything, mostly about directions. So even like when we turn out of the driveway, he says turn left, I say turn right. So for Christmas, I'd bought him a Tom-Tom. And so the next day, as I said, we're due to head out with Tom-Tom and Ron and drive up to Brisbane. So finally, when Ron gets less interested in the cricket, he says to me, well, why don't we call in and see the doctor on the way up to Brisbane if you're that worried about it? So we do. So the next morning, we're heading off to Brisbane, and we call round to the doctor's surgery, and it's like at Sparrowfart. And of course, it's been 3 days of public holidays, and there's about 50,000 people queued up waiting to see the doctor. And I have to tell you, it was a bit of a relief for me, because what I didn't tell Ron was I'd actually been to the doctor's a couple of weeks before with a brain tumour. And, well, what had happened was I'd had this really strange kind of bump on my head, and I really worried about it, and I kept playing with it. And finally I went to see Dr. Grantham, and Dr. Grantham had said to me after examining my head, he said to me, I could send you for an MRI, or I could loosen your glasses. And so he loosened my glasses. Anyway, so I didn't really want to front back up to him so soon after this last major catastrophe. And besides that, the son that I was going to go and see in Brisbane had just started working with the Cancer Council up there, because clearly this was a melanoma on its way. And so I thought, when I get up there, I'll talk to him about it, because, if those of you who know my son, at least we'd have something to talk about. And if it was my melanoma. Anyway, so all the way up in the car, Ron's driving, and I've got the passenger mirror down, the makeup mirror on the passenger side, and I'm just staring at this thing on my chest, and I'm watching it change before my very eyes. It's actually got more crinkly around the outside now, and it's actually shrinking in shape, and it's lifting slightly off my skin. It is not looking good. Anyway, so we drive up, and after a day and a bit, we finally get to Brisbane. And of course, I rush in. The first thing, I can't even talk to my son. I've got to just tell him straight. I said, look at this, and I pull down my top. He goes, Mum, no. I said, no, look, I want you to have a look at this. I think it's a melanoma. He goes, Mum, I work in the marketing department. if you've got a melanoma, you need to go to a clinic. Anyway, so by this stage, I'm really frantic. I have been obsessing about this thing on my chest now for 48 hours, and I am sick with it. And I've actually managed to get Ron worried about it. So Ron said to me that night, I'll tell you what, we'll drive around and we'll look for a clinic, you know, one of those skin cancer clinics. Well, the good thing about Brisbane is they've got more of those than, you know, Pineapple Donuts or whatever. I know there's thousands of these skin clinics. Anyway, so we find one and we decide that we're going to be there first thing the next morning, and we go back to the hotel in Brisbane to wait. So he's lying on the bed trying to relax, and I'm in the bathroom staring at this thing on my chest. And I suddenly realise that I'm going to die. This is it. I admit I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, and I finally now, this is always going to happen to a hypochondriac, they're finally going to get something really serious and no one's going to believe them. And then I remember Mary McKillop. I know she's got 3 miracles, but maybe she could just stretch to a 4th. So I dropped to my knees in the bathroom and I put my hand to my chest and I go, Mary McKillop, wherever you are, I'm a good Catholic girl and I've just gone off the rails. But if you just let me live just this little bit longer, I promise I'll go back to the church. I'll do it. And I'm doing this and I lift my hand away and I look down and the melanoma's come off. It's on my hand. I can't believe it. Oh my God. I go, Ron. Ron leaps up from the bed. He comes running over. He goes, what? I go, it's the melanoma. Look at it. And he gets it and he puts it in the palm of his hand and he pokes it like this. And then he goes, how long since you had a shower? He said, it's a sultana skin. It's a sultana skin. It's from Christmas Day, from the plum pudding. It's a sultana skin. Ladies and gentlemen, I swear to you right now, it wasn't. It wasn't a sultana skin. It was the real deal. Mary McKillop's 4th miracle.